Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk. This is a show about real life, real people, and everyday issues. When I decided to do this show, I wanted to empower people with knowledge of issues that everyday people are facing. The show, too, was based on a quote that I've lived by Dr. King, and it says that our lives begin to end on the day we become silent about things that matter. And I have lived my life by that quote. Today, as we look around, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, we will do future shows on it, but we are certainly facing a pandemic. It is a pandemic dealing with COVID-19, which has changed the landscape of our world. We are also facing a pandemic dealing with police brutality. These pandemics are not just in our states, but they are across the globe. And the landscape is changing each and every day, but we've got to address the issues. The issues, of course, will never be addressed, especially with police brutality. We have a vaccine that has been worked on and being put in the arms of those that are choosing to fight the pandemic in that way. We have our masks that we're using. We have our sanitizer, hand sanitizer we're using to protect us from germs each and every day. But the bad behavior of rogue policemen is got to be addressed in our judicial system. There has to be a change in order for us to move forward, because the problem is both systemic and systematic. My thought when I think about Merle versus Merkism is that if there are tougher penalties for bad behavior, that's for policemen who are rogue, for gangbangers that are shooting up innocent people on the streets, for anyone who crosses that line, if we have more harsher penalties to address the behavior, perhaps one would think before shooting. Today, I want to talk about another mini pandemic that I have come to learn more about, and I want to share with you. Everyone, each of us in our families know someone, or maybe those that are watching, you know someone who has probably had a teenage pregnancy. That is not the end of the world, but it is how we support it that can make the difference for a positive outcome. When I was looking at the statistics, I found, of course, for 2020, they're still working on a lot of those. In 2021, we have yet to get through. But teenage pregnancy in the U.S. has been declining, they say, over the past 20 years. In 2018, the U.S. teen birth rate was 17.4 births per 1,000 females between the ages of 15 and 19. So that's probably not taking into account, we know children that are younger that have had babies. A little bit closer to home, in Illinois, the number of births was at 14.6 births per every 1,000. That may not seem like a lot to you, but that is pretty alarming. I looked at an article by Redline. It was done in May of 2020, And it said that the number of births in the U.S. has dropped, but even closer to home in Chicago, they said, according to the Chicago Department of Public Health, that the teen birth rates dropped from 72 births per 1,000 to just 41. We know with teenage pregnancy, that brings other issues, healthcare disparities possibly, low birth weights. Well, I'm not the expert on this subject. However, I want to bring to you someone that I met about 4.5, 5 years ago when I was canvassing, looking for a vote when I was running for the school board. And I knocked on this phenomenal young lady's door, and I was very surprised by the response that I got. Usually I could go to someone's door and say, hey, what my name was, and this is what I'm doing. Immediately when I met Dr. Shelley Amuh, she made me know that I was going to have to earn her vote in order to get her to vote for me. She asked me what was it that I was planning to do. She talked to me about taxes, about a lot of different things that affects communities in terms of school boards. Dr. Shelley Amuh is a humble, phenomenal young lady. I'm going to say we're all young. And she is such a humble person. I mean, I have met doctors, but I have sat on committees with her. She is an advocate. She is an advocate, a woman of integrity, an advocate for children, an advocate for closing healthcare disparities. She is an advocate for the community. And the thing is, she's a powerhouse. And as the kids say, she rocks. And I know that she does, because I myself had to call on Dr. Shelley Amuh last year when my daughter, who, for the record, is not a teenager, she's 25, but due to COVID, she was forced to change over to the system in where she worked in Advocate. And I immediately could not think of anybody else that I could trust, because when you're having a baby, and this is why it's important we talk about this, even as a teenager, but even as a full-grown woman, there are risks. And there was nobody that I thought of immediately when she said Advocate that I could trust and think of than Dr. Shelley Amuh. I'd like to welcome Dr. Shelley Amuh to Real Talk. Hi, Dr. Amuh. How are you today?
I'm well, and thank you for all those accolades.
You deserve them. You sincerely rock, and you certainly have made a difference in my life in meeting you. When I was developing the show, you and your cause was one of the things that I thought about. It's at the top of my list. So just because I just called you, just know your project and your passion, it sticks with me, it stays with me, and as you know, I am a supporter. For the viewers, and I know for the sake of time, would you tell our viewers a little bit about your background, about your experience, and what it is that you do?
Okay. Well, I'm an OBGYN by profession, but I'm also a mother of 5. And I've always had teens that I mentored in my office. But as you know, in an office setting, you don't have a lot of time with the patients. And I just was thinking of a way that I could spend more time and mentor some of my teens that were not just in my office, but in my community. So it just so happened that I was doing a health fair at our local high school. And once some of the students found out I was OBGYN, they just hovered around me. So one student confided in me and said that she was pregnant, and her boyfriend were thinking about dropping out of school. So I was horrified, because you don't need to drop out of school just because you're pregnant.
Right.
But you do need resources, and you need them right away. And you need for the school to make some accommodations, and neither one of those things were happening. So as I talked to some of the social workers in the school, I realized that they really had no setup, no criteria, no resources in place for pregnant teens in their building.
Wow.
And so that's, and I had been thinking about doing a nonprofit organization for pregnant teens for some time now. But of course, my own household, my professional commitments.
Yes.
And I just couldn't think of a way that I could do it.
Is
but
this
a friend
how
of
you
mine,
came up? I'm sorry. Is this how you came up with the Puddle Project, the idea for the Puddle Project?
Well, the idea was already there.
Yes.
But when I realized that there really was no resources even in my own community, I needed to move. I needed to do something. I needed to set something else aside and do this because it was needed.
Yes.
So that's when the Puddle Project came about. And the Puddle Project, basically a nonprofit organization that does one-on-one mentorship with pregnant teens, both the moms and the dads. Now we work in 6 high schools in the south suburbs.
Great.
And 1 high school in Chicago Public Schools.
Okay.
And we've gotten some wonderful success. I've been mentoring myself just personally, probably throughout my career, but very focused within the last 7 years in my local high school.
Okay.
And it's been very rewarding.
That is awesome. So would you say, because of the profession of what you do, that tied in, of course, to the Puddle Project and seeing the need, your information states that you service expectant mothers and partners. How successful are you with that, with getting the partners to come on board?
Well, of course, that's a challenge because oftentimes the father is not necessarily in the same school as the mother.
Yes.
So that's one reason it makes it hard, because if we establish a relationship in the school with the social worker, with the nurse, if that father was in the same school, we'd be able to at least get him in that school. We'd have some connection with the faculty in the school. So that's the biggest problem, that oftentimes the young man is not at the same school. And then the second problem is sometimes a young man is a little older. Sometimes a young man has already dropped out of school. Oftentimes the couple is still together, but he feels the need to go get a job as opposed to continuing with school. So though we like to try to catch them before that happens, oftentimes we don't. So it is a little bit more of a challenge to get the father, but once we establish a real good relationship with the mom, we can oftentimes get that dad.
Why is it, when I was coming up, this was not a subject that was talked about a lot. I remember my mom giving me, a matter of fact, when I was cleaning out our house last month, this book. It's called Making Babies. This book is over 40 years old. 42 to be exact, because she gave it to me when I was 8.
Okay.
And when I had a new sister, she gave me this book. And it was That New Baby. And it was a subject that my mom talked about making babies, of course, when girls start their cycles, and I did start, maybe about a year or 2 after having this book. The thing that my mom walked me through is how babies are made, and she used this book to do it. And it was a challenge, because I, as a mother, when it was time for my oldest daughter, I was like, I'm going bananas. But we tend to go back to our raising, is my point. But you heard the grandmothers and the great aunts talking about, oh, so-and-so, Miss so-and-so daughter, they sent her down south, because she got an issue. And the issue was really a baby. And then when I was old enough and I attended high school, and might be telling my age here, but that's okay, all girls who were pregnant were not, I don't know if it wasn't that they weren't allowed, but they were sent to alternative schools like Lucy Flowers. So they were not able to be with the regular population. So that's about the biggest extent of what I knew about this subject. And it was a hush-hush kind of thing, because when Miss So-and-so sent her daughter or her granddaughter down south, you never heard anything else about what happened, or later the baby comes up and it's bigger or older or whatever. So what is it today, and why is it that more schools, this is definitely, as we can see, an issue. Teenage pregnancy is an issue according to the rates and things that we're seeing across the country. I think Arkansas has the highest rate, and I think that was at 30.4 births per 1,000. And was it Massachusetts was 7.2, and this was according to the national statistics. Why isn't it that more schools are not embracing a project? I mean, this should be in every school.
Well, that's also a challenge. And I think that I can't explain why it's not in every school, but I can say that the sexual education in our schools is really outdated because there's so much information out here for young people to have through the internet. They oftentimes get their sexual education there or through their friends or
their peers, yes,
from websites, which is a bit dangerous because oftentimes this is not the real thing. And it also can be, very addicting and harmful in your thinking. So I think one of the things and that's what the Puddle Project is really all about, education, education, education. I think that it's long past to say hush hush when someone gets pregnant. We really need to embrace them. We need to give them the resources they need. We need to make sure that the schools are accommodating them. I'll give you an example. I was mentoring a young woman who was about 35 weeks pregnant, so almost close to delivery, and she was still hauling around books on the backpack at school. And so that's what I mean, how nothing was in place for girls once they identify as being pregnant. They should have a second set of books that can stay at home.
Yes.
So they can leave a set in their locker at school. So they're not hauling books back and forth. And you think that would be common sense. But these are the kind of things that need to be discussed and put in place so that when a girl comes in and identifies, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to switch your schedule. Maybe we need to give you more passing time. Maybe we need to get you out of that gym class, whatever it might be. But, those are the kind of things that need to be done. But it all goes back to not only educating the student, but the staff.
Yes.
So that, we know that they get what they need. So, and I just can't say enough about education, and that's what we try to do for our girls. And we also try to make sure that they know how to protect themselves so that they don't have a second pregnancy before finishing high school.
Right, and that is very important. And I think that, like you said, I think there's a disconnect, because I was talking to a friend of mine that was a CPS teacher, and she was saying that it's just become commonplace, and not that pregnant girls should be, or teens should be, discriminated against, but the supports are not in place for them to receive that could change the entire outcome of the situation. Even
Correct.
In healthcare. She was telling me about a young lady in her class, and she was saying that the young lady said she hadn't even seen a doctor yet. So there are some healthcare disparities, there are some challenges there, and I'm guessing with the Puddle Project, these are the kind of things that you try to close the gap, if you can get to them in time or when you reach them, to help them close the gap in these areas with healthcare disparities, with resources that are needed to help them and accommodate them, and not have a situation where we have a young person out here having a child and the cycle continues somewhere later because they didn't get the education or the knowledge or the resources or the support that they needed in order to have, I'm going to say, a successful outcome. So that is what the Puddle Project does. It utilizes resources through mentorship. You're creating partnerships with schools, which I think this program needs to be in every school. And I don't know how many volunteers and mentors that you have, but it needs to be in every school. And I know that's something that you're probably working towards. And it takes time because we have to knock this. There's a wall here about this subject. Yeah. And like you said, it's not just with the children themselves, it's with the staff and having those resources. Can you tell me, in your program, have parents of the participants been receptive to your program? And are they active in the program? Are there resources available for the grandparents in the Puddle Project?
They are, but this program is really for that young lady. We have found that the parents want their children to be mentored and really want to kind of separate their parenting role from our mentor role. And I think that's the way to develop a really healthy relationship with the mentor. If she thinks that you're talking to her mother every time she's honest with you, she's probably not going to be that honest with you. Because if she wanted her mother to know that, she would tell her mother. So, but what we do, we get a consent from the parents to let them know what we do and for them to consent to their child being a part of our program. And of course, we have to do that if the student is not 18. And a lot of our students are not. So, and then we also get a consent so that we can use their picture. So sometimes in the school we'll have an event with them, and so they have to have their consent to that as well. So the grandparents can be a part of it, but they're really not a part of the mentorship, the actual relationship, the one-on-one relationship with the mentor and the mentee, because we want this to be something that's you can bridge the gap between her and what's happening at home. So, and oftentimes what's happening at home is not that supportive to what she needs to do to complete her studies and to have a successful pregnancy. So the grandparents are involved, but they're not involved in the actual relationship between the mentor and the mentee.
That's good to know, and it's also it's about trust, because like you said, you have to establish a relationship, and it has to be in a relationship of trust. Can you share some of the successes of your program, and if some of the recipients have come back to give back in Puddle Project?
Sure. Well, we're very early in our successes. So we do have a couple of girls that I have taught, well, they're young women now, that I have talked to about doing that, and they're more than happy to do it. The one, there was a young lady that I started mentoring when she was a junior at Homewood Flossmoor High School. And when I met her, she just had the baby. So, and she was having some challenges with some of those things that I'm talking about, with just the school, negotiating the school and which classes she could go to, giving her a little bit more time to do what she needed to do. And she actually graduated from HF a semester early. She was determined to do that. And she went on to Prairie State University and got her, not bachelor's degree, but her associate's degree in nursing. Went on and got a job. She's doing great. She's a great mom. We still, she's still actively a part of our program, because we decided as an organization that we were going to follow these young women through college or whatever work situation they decided to do, meaning we're encouraging them to either do college or some kind of additional training so that they can get a better employment. So we decided we're going to follow that team through that process and help them all throughout the way. And so this young lady has done that. She's now back in school and doing quite well. I'm really very proud of her, very thoughtful in her parenting, and she calls me when she needs something. She calls me when she needs advice, and that's awesome. And I have never met this young lady's mother.
Wow.
She actually lived with her father. Her mother was a little less involved, and so I've met the father. So oftentimes we have the opportunity to meet the parents, and sometimes we don't. We also have another couple that they also a homophilosopher student. She also finished a semester early. I don't know, it's something about these having that pregnancy that motivated them to let me hurry up and get out of high school so that I can continue and move a little faster. So those two young ladies both did it. And she's now doing a cosmetic program.
Yes.
And her partner, he's struggling a bit, but he did agree to be mentored. So there are, outstanding couple. And we had a fundraiser over the summer during 2020 that was virtual. We asked the two of them to speak, the couple. And he stated that initially he was hesitating to get a mentor, but he's really glad he did. And the nice part was we had two mentors that mentored as a couple. So the wife of the couple mentored the young woman, and the husband mentored the young man. And so they sometimes have meetings together. So obviously, you have to meet with the young woman, you have to eat with the young man. And sometimes they came together as a couple to talk to them as a couple. And this young man said he learned so much just by watching the interaction between the two mentors, the husband and wife. That's one of the schools that we partnered with in the city is called Simpson Academy for Young Women.
Okay.
And that is a school for pregnant and parenting teens.
Okay.
And so some of the Chicago Public School young women come to this school when they become pregnant. It's not mandatory anymore in Chicago Public School. And there's only one in the city.
Wow.
So any student all over the city, anywhere, could come to this school. And we've had some great successes out of that school as well. We have a young lady now there that's a senior who is definitely going to go to college, very bright.
Wow.
Now she has some challenges at home, and we haven't been able to get her young man.
Okay.
But we're still working on it.
That's right.
And but we know that she's going to graduate from high school and go on to college.
That is
so we're
awesome.
helping her with that process.
That
and
is
we also have a
awesome.
scholarship where we help the girls as well. So last year we gave 2 scholarships to 2 of our graduates.
Oh, wow.
So there are definitely some good things happening.
Yes.
And, I know we hear all the horror stories, but there's some wonderful stories as well that could help uplift other teens if they knew about them.
We have to definitely make sure that the word gets out and help partner with these schools, and hopefully some of our viewers will be able, and that's another thing I want to talk about before we let you go, because I know you've got to get back to work. Can you tell me, how can we combat teen pregnancy? You basically answered the question when you said educate, educate, educate. And I think that's the reason that we are seeing some declining numbers. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. And like me, you have a high schooler.
Yes.
And if you talk to her about what happened in health class, and how they discuss sex education, again, it's antiquated.
Very antiquated.
It doesn't talk to them about really what's happening today. So I don't know how you can expect them to have the knowledge of how to prevent pregnancy if they're sexually active.
Yes.
And so they're not going to have it if your parents are not talking to you about it. Then the second place would be the school. If the school is not talking about it, the only place you're going to learn about it is probably through your peers. And some of that information is going to be incorrect. So the education part is the biggest part. And so, for the Puddle Project, that's, education, education, education. And, our goals for them, we have 3 main goals. One is to graduate from high school with a diploma, not a GED, because we know that some places you can't go without a diploma.
That's right.
So also have a healthy pregnancy, successful outcome, and we'll help them do that. And develop the healthy lifestyle along with having that healthy pregnancy. And then the third thing is just helping them become responsible parents and working adults. And we do that by continuing to support them after high school. So, and in whatever endeavor it is, it doesn't have to be college. It could be a training program. It could be a welding program. Whatever you want to do, we'll help you with that.
That is awesome, Dr. Amuh. I mean, I've learned even more today about the Puddle Project than what I knew before. For viewers of this show who are interested in becoming a mentor, a volunteer, or even someone may be looking at it and find themselves that they are a teenage mother, how can they obtain more information?
Well, they can just send us an email right now. Our website is in development, and it will be thepuddleproject.org once it's set up, and it should be set up in the next couple of months. But right now, they can email us at info@thepuddleproject.org.
Can you repeat that for me?
Info, I-N-F-O, at The Puddle Project, all one word,
Yes.
.org.
.org, okay.
And I can put it in the chat for you too, if that would be helpful.
That would be great. Providing resources often involves cost. How does the Puddle Project raise funding to provide support for teen participants? And how can people donate?
Yes. If they use that same email address, they can zell it to us.
Okay.
They can also obviously send us a check, and we have a P.O. Box, P.O. Box 418, Flossmoor, Illinois 60422. P.O. Box 418, Flossmoor, Illinois 60422. And we will soon have the website up and running, and then they can just donate on the website. We've been very fortunate. We did receive a grant this year. Well, actually, we received it in 2020 from the Chicago Foundation of Women. And we've subsequently applied for 2 other grants. And we did receive what they called emergency COVID-19 money for our girls.
All right.
And throughout 2020, we've been able to send them Walmart gift certificates. They get somewhere between $50 and $100 every month, and also a book for their child.
Wow.
So one of our initiatives is to have the girls have a library card, become avid readers, and also read to their baby every night. So we send them a book every month along with that gift certificate.
That is awesome.
So that's how we've been supporting them, and we were able to do that through that grant. And we also had a really successful virtual fundraiser this year. One of our board members used it as she did a birthday party for herself, and she asked all her friends to donate to the Puddle Project, and that was extremely successful.
Oh, that is awesome.
So we had enough money to do some extra things. So one of our girls, the same young lady that I was saying that's a senior this year, she needed a bus pass every month. Now, fortunately, she was at Simpson Academy, and they give the girls bus passes.
Okay.
But they're limited bus passes. They're just a one-way ride.
Wow.
So just to school, from school.
Yeah.
But she needed to be able to first drop her baby off at a babysitter, get back on the bus and get to school, or get back on a bus and go to work, then come back to get her. So she needed more than one back and forth ride. So we've been buying bus cards for her as well. We've helped with rent for our girls. We've helped with childcare.
Wow.
Even though there's an Illinois initiative where they can get a subsidy at some childcare centers, oftentimes they still have to pay a minimum amount. We've done that for our girls so that they can stay in school and have a safe place for their babies.
Because you know what, and that's important. Everything that you have said is truly important, because we want to make sure that when teenagers have babies, that they don't think that that's the end, that they cannot move forward from a decision that maybe wasn't the best, but they can make the best out of it. So we need to continue to make sure that the Puddle Project to me, reaches all the schools. And I know that would be keeping you really busy, and you would need a lot of volunteers. And I'm definitely going to, as soon as I told you, I can give you 1 day a week. I can give you 1 day a week until I can get some help with my mom. But I want to thank you, Dr. Shelley Amuh. You rock. You make the difference in the lives, even if you touch one life at a time, and you're giving back. And you know what? You are a phenomenal woman, and I appreciate it. You are a phenomenal professional. You are a healthcare worker. You are on the front line each and every day. You're a mom, and most of all, you're an advocate. And you're advocating for the disparities that a lot of our communities face. And people think it can't happen in the suburbs, but it can, and it does. Continue to make a difference. Would you come back and talk to us again and let us know
Absolutely.
Your success? And I'm going to keep up with you. We here at Real Talk support the Puddle Project. Thank you so much, Dr. Shelley Amuh, and thank you for the lives and the difference that you are making each day.
Thank you. And I should mention that you also can give through Amazon Smile. If you do smile.amazon.com and you make your purchase on Amazon, you can pick a nonprofit organization. I almost forgot that.
Okay.
And if you can pick the Puddle Project, and then Amazon gives a certain percentage of that sale. It doesn't come out from you. They give a certain percentage of that sale to the nonprofit organization. And even if you have a organization that you're already supporting, you can always switch. If you make a purchase this week, you can do it for the Puddle Project. Next week, you can do it for your favorite church or whatever nonprofit organization you're already supporting. So that's another way that folks can give.
Thank you, and I know that our viewers are going to help you, because this is a project that we're investing in our future. And so
Absolutely.
You are making a difference by making that investment up front in what you do, and I thank you for your passion, and I want you to come back again. We're going to be following the Puddle Project. Thank you
very
so
much.
much. Thanks for joining Real Talk. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just cannot say enough about what we just heard about the Puddle Project. That is certainly a way of taking lemons and making lemonade, but when you have people who care, African American women, this woman, Dr. Shelley Amuh, is an OB-GYN, has done this, I believe, for over 30 years. She's making a difference. And you might not think that this could happen to you or your child or your family, but we all, again, we know someone, or we know of someone in our circle that has been faced with teenage pregnancy. And as we just heard, it doesn't end there. There are resources to support this. People say it's a mistake. In God, I don't believe there ever is a mistake. But out of this decision, this choice, it does not end there. And so I want you to, if you need more information regarding the Puddle Project, definitely I want you to go to info@thepuddleproject.org and see how you can help the Puddle Project today. Like I said in the beginning, we have many pandemics going on, but this is one that flies under the radar, yet the statistics, teen pregnancy is really, really, really a big and a huge deal. And often, as Dr. Amuh said, you have situations where households and parents are not supporting that teen. And come on, let's think about it. We also know situations where parents have put their child out, their female daughters out, and we never know what we would do if faced with that situation. But here, the Puddle Project is offering resources, they're offering support, mentorship, and what better way to help a young mother stay on their feet, especially in their teenage years. And you heard the success stories. They are graduating and graduating early. That's the outcomes that we want. I thank you so much for tuning in today. We're going to do a part 2. We're going to follow up with the Puddle Project. But I thank you for tuning in, and I hope that this show was beneficial to you today. And again, we can't turn up our nose and say, this doesn't pertain to me. We never know when it will pertain. This is Merle Huckabee signing off and letting you know that real people, real life, real issues, we all face them. But here on Real Talk, we're going to empower people with knowledge. I look forward to our next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in.